If you need any help, my young colleague over here can help you with that. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very slight delay. It won't be long, and we'll be with you very shortly.
Okay, ready? Hello, is that working? Can you hear me? Yeah. Hello, everybody. Good to be back, even though we haven't actually been in this auditorium before, but good to see many familiar faces. We had the, as you know, Executive Board today, so welcome to the Olympic Games, which I think start in 6 days, which I saw a slide today and it made me slightly nervous, but it all seems to be heading in a good direction. So today is the first of a series of press briefings. With me you will see obviously Kit McConnell, IOC Sports Director, and James McLeod, whose title gets longer and longer, NOC Relations, Olympic Solidarity and Olympism 365 Director. Before we hear from Kit and James, just a few quick updates for you. Some people will be interested, others not. Change of nationality. The EB approved 2 changes of nationality for athletes today. Ms. Anna Prakaten in rowing, changing from Russian to Uzbeki, from Russia to Uzbekistan. Mr. Kai Liam Winkler, swimming from USA to Germany. As usual, the EB consented to the request for exemption from the 3-year waiting period, and thus we confirm the eligibility of the athletes concerned to represent the country of the applicant NOC at the Olympic Games 2024. And then one other thing from me, and then we'll go to Kit. Winter Youth Olympic Games 2028. IOC Executive Board today decided to invite the Italian Olympic Committee into a targeted dialogue to explore a proposal to host the Winter Youth Olympic Games 2028 in Italy. Dolomiti Valtellina is a project led by CONI and its regional partners in Lombardy, Trentino and Veneto, and would build on the legacies of the Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 26, using 100% of existing venues. So, okay, let's go now to Kit. We'll talk about preparations for Paris, Olympic Games Paris 2024, from a sports perspective, with 4 days to go till the first competition, 6 days to go till the opening ceremony. Kit.
Thanks very much, Mark, and good to see everyone, and thanks for the clarification on the countdown. From our side, it's always to the sport starting, not only the opening ceremony. So from a sport perspective, 4 days to go now until we see the competition starting with rugby and football. And to put that into context, we had training open to 17 different sports and disciplines across the various sports in the program. So competition in 4 days, but training very much started in those final preparations for a number of athletes now. At the IOC Executive Board meeting today, the board heard its last report from the Paris 2024 Organising Committee before the start of the Games, and it started with a very clear message that not just Paris but the whole of France has been welcoming these Games, and as we go into the last few days, that excitement only continues to build. James may touch on it more, but we've got over half of the National Olympic Committees now in the Olympic Village, over 2,000 athletes of the 10,500 gender equal for the first time are in the village so far, and they will continue to come in, mainly based on the timing of their competitions. As I mentioned, training started over the last couple of days in a small number of sports, but now being just a week out from the first full day of competition, if you like, day 1 next Saturday, we had the 17 different sports and disciplines starting across a number of venues as well. The feedback from the athletes and the NOC delegations, and a lot of these are very experienced NOC delegations, regarding the Olympic Village has been just fantastic. The quality of the village, the atmosphere in the village, you've probably seen visuals of it. It's just an incredible environment for the athletes to be in as they go into their final preparations, and really strong feedback from the athletes and the chef de missions and the other involved NOC personnel. Equally, we can see the incredible excitement in the streets, in the public, towards these Games. More than 8.8 million tickets sold, which is an incredible number for these Games, the most ever for a sport event in France. And, of course, we've seen, in addition, over 6 million people lining the streets for the torch relay. So the response from the French public, and you can feel it here in Paris very visibly, is just incredible into the last few days. As we, in the EB today, we also had updates from the interministerial delegate for the Games, Michel Cadeau, and also the prefect of police, Laurent Nunez, who joined Tony Estanguet and Etienne Taubois to explain how the French state is not only meeting all of its commitments, but preparing for the opening ceremony and the coming competitions. All of the venues are on track. Of course, when you're operating this many venues, this many details, there are some points that are being addressed in the final preparations, but all built and will be ready on time and within budget. And when we talk about the security aspect, as I think you know, there's over 30,000 personnel from different security forces working daily now. So Paris 2024 and the City of Paris have clearly delivered on the promise of transforming what is already an incredible city, and we see it just stepping outside the main press centre here into one large Olympic field of play when we see the venues right downtown in iconic places with these just truly fantastic backdrops around the city and in the city centre itself. We now see the Tour Eiffel, les Invalides, le Pont Alexandre III, all of these as backdrops to incredible sport venues that have emerged and ready for competition now. And of course, the most innovative step, potentially the use of the River Seine, right at the heart of this city and these games in just 6 days, as Mark said, before the opening ceremony. The IOC Executive Board was very strong, along with the stakeholder representatives, the IFs and the NOCs and the athletes, in giving confidence to the organising committee in the work done. Of course, there's no complacency on any part. We know the true operations have to start, and the coming days will ramp up every single day. There's more athletes in the village, more transport operations happening, more training venues happening, and obviously less time before the opening ceremony and the start of the competition. But extremely confident about where we are. Stakeholders expressed real confidence as well, and a huge amount of excitement for the landscape and for the base that these games have to be truly memorable. And from a sport perspective, super exciting to see these venues ready to go, see the ticket sales and the expected attendance for the first sessions, including the rugby and football here in Paris, starting on Wednesday. And then, of course, day one next Saturday. I think this time next Saturday we'll be looking back on the majority of the competitions having happened on day one, and it's super exciting to think where we'll be just a week from now, looking back on those competitions and the first medals coming up, I think, in the course of that day. Thank you. Mark, do you want me to go on to OQS?
Yes, please. Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. Besides Paris, we also gave an update on a few other points to the IOC Executive Board today, and James will touch on some of the NOC-related matters. One thing we did from a sport perspective give an update on was the completion of the Olympic Qualifier Series, and many of you will know this is a new initiative that builds on our general promotions of the qualification processes for the Olympic Games, but brings together 4 sports and disciplines with BMX freestyle, skateboarding, sport climbing and breaking into a festival, a weekend of qualification to the Games, but also of young youth-focused urban sport. And we had the first edition in Shanghai earlier, and then the second and final part of the series in Budapest from the 21st to the 23rd of June, culminating on Olympic Day. And we've just got a short video to show you to bring to life what we saw as a real success in Budapest with the second of the two steps in the series. If we could just play that video, please. Maybe I can try manually.
I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up, going all the way up. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up, going all the way up. It's time to get it. It's time to go. It's time to shine. It's my time to blow. So I'ma steal the show. Ready, set, go. I'ma blow up like a C4. Tick, 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 tick. Boom. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up, going all the way up. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up, going all the way up. I'm on a new level. I'm on a new level. I'm on a new level, leveling up. I'm on a new level. I'm on a new level. I'm on a new level, leveling up.
So a little bit of a taste of what's waiting for us in the venues in the coming days here as well. We had over 450 athletes competing across the 4 sports and disciplines from 55 NOCs. As you can see on the screen, a hugely positive feedback from the athletes about the experience competing in a multi-sport environment, meeting athletes from the other sports, but in a fully Olympic branded environment on that pathway towards Paris, and equally about the standard of competition that they were in. There were a number of 4 athletes, one in each sport, that actually won both legs, Shanghai and Budapest, and you can see them on the screen. Breaking, obviously new to the Games in Paris. Brooke Rabateau in sport climbing from the USA was an Olympian in Tokyo, as was, I think, familiar to many of the French journalists here, Anthony Jean-Jean in BMX freestyle, who I think is also looking forward to performing in his home country here. And in terms of the response, both in Shanghai and Budapest, now we've completed both of the 2 legs. You can see on the screen we had over 100,000 spectators across the 2 legs, fully packed venues on both occasions, and the spectators also responded not only to the sport they were seeing, the athletes they were seeing, but equally the environment that was created. And for us, that was really important, not only for the host cities and for the athletes, but it gave everyone a taste of what's waiting in Place de la Concorde and the other venues in Paris over the coming days. So we updated the executive board on that initiative, and we'll obviously be doing a full review of that with the federations, the athletes, the hosts and everyone, to see how we can continue to expand our promotion of the Olympic qualification processes when we come out of Paris and cast the eyes forward to Los Angeles in 2028. So, Mark, I think that was it from my side, and I'll pass over to James, I think.
Thank you very much. Okay, James, quick report on Olympic solidarity.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to pick up on one of the things that Kit mentioned, as of today, 166 delegation registration meetings have happened in the village. So that's where the NOCs come into the village and actually enter their teams and start moving in. And those delegation registration meetings continue up until the 23rd of July. So all going to plan. There's a huge NOC satisfaction with the venues and the village. It really is very few complaints. All the operations seem to be working well. So the athletes are beginning to move into the village, as Kit just said. Today I was very lucky to be able to present to the IOC Executive Board the Olympic Solidarity Plan for 2025 to 2028, and that was for approval. And I'm going to just be able to give you a bit of an update on that plan now. As you know, there's an Olympic Solidarity Commission at the IOC that exists. They met yesterday to discuss the details of the plan, to see exactly what the priorities would be for the future. One thing just to note, the IOC is following a number of Olympic scholarship holders here in Paris in their journey to Paris. Olympic Solidarity has supported over 1,300 athletes in their quest for Olympic qualification. We'll know the exact number of athletes who will be here in Paris when the final entries finish. But you can see some really great stories on the IOC website relating to the athletes that you can see there up on the screen. Just to give you a bit of a flavor of the Olympic Solidarity work in the run-up to Paris, we did show a very short video to the IOC Executive Board today that I want to also share with you, and then I'll take you through the plan itself. Thank you.
One significant way that the scholarship, that the Olympic Solidarity has really impacted my life is definitely the training. I am currently living in San Diego, and without the Olympic Solidarity support, I would not be training with the team that I am and would not have made the improvements in my goals and times that I have just this past year alone.
I came to Germany to train like 2 years ago, and of course I've been using the Solidarity funds, and it has helped me to go to like more competitions, because within Europe it's easier to travel and go for lots of competitions. The coach also, they also help in supporting the club, the competitions. So with my Solidarity and the help of the club, I was able to do a lot of competitions and going around.
bourse de la solidarité olympique m'a permis de financer ma préparation olympique. Cela m'a entre autres permis de financer mes déplacements entre mon lieu d'habitation et mon point d'entraînement qui était distant de 200 km.
The Olympic scholarship has allowed me to pursue my passion in triathlon and be able to qualify for the Olympic Games and be the first triathlete from Iceland to do so. I'm so thankful for having received the grant. It has helped me tremendously on my way to Paris.
Je dis tout net que le soutien de la solidarité olympique au Centre du Mali a eu des bénéfices inestimables. Pour ma part, il a renforcé mes compétences en management des organisations sportives et pour le Centre, il a permis de réussir les programmes de la solidarité olympique.
Without the scholarship program from the IOC, it was not possible for me to continue my career. So definitely Germany was helped me and supporting me to return to the normal life, and IOC was supporting me to continue my career in the best way possible. So I think without this program I couldn't continue.
The biggest changes that I've experienced in my life since I've entered the WISH program is that I can coach with a bigger confidence and that I'm more aware of my strengths, but also opportunities to work with others.
Paris, here I come.
Paris, here I come.
Paris, me voilà.
Paris, here I come.
Thank you, Olympic Solidarity.
Merci, thank you, Omnichi.
So I was very lucky to be able to present all the good work that Olympic Solidarity has done over the last 4 years. But to continue that good work, we made a proposal to the IOC Executive Board for an increase in the budget that's available to Olympic Solidarity for the next year. And the IOC Executive Board confirmed a budget of $650 million, which is a 10% increase compared to the last 4-year quadrennial plan, which will allow us to approach a number of priorities that have been set by the IOC and by the Commission. The $650 million will be divided roughly into what you can see on the next slide, if I can. Roughly divided between the world programs, which are the programs that are available to all 206 national Olympic committees across the world, but also, and that includes things like the Olympic scholarships for athletes, the technical courses for coaches, the initiatives that go towards the promotion of Olympic values. Continental programs will continue to exist through the decentralization of some of the funding to the continental associations of NOCs, and then the IOC subsidies for the NOC's participation in the Olympic Games and Youth Olympic Games will exist and even be reinforced for the next 4 years, recognizing the tough economic situation that the NOCs are in. It allows them to at least rely on those subsidies to be able to come with their athletes to each edition of the Olympic Games and the Youth Olympic Games. Now, some of the priority areas that we looked at through Olympic Solidarity, you can see here on the screen. The new plan will offer more money for athletes. We will increase the number of scholarships for athletes for Milan Cortina, Los Angeles, but also the Olympic Winter Games in 2030. We will invest a lot more money in the youth development programs specifically linked to the Dakar Games, Youth Olympic Games, through added programs with international federations focused on African sport. In terms of athlete engagement, you'll remember that the IOC, through Olympic Solidarity, already gives grants to NOC's athlete commissions to be able to do engagement and activities with their athletes community, and we'll be bringing this also to a continental level. The promotion of Olympic values remains very strong throughout the world in terms of NOC's needs, and the connection there with Olympism 365, which is the strategy that the IOC has put in place to demonstrate that sport is an important enabler for the SDGs, will allow NOCs to have more opportunities to actually contribute to that strategy. Then continental association initiatives, I've told you already, we will be working with the continental associations to make sure that they can deliver programs at a local, regional level. And then we all recognize that NOC management, we need to professionalize as much as we can the NOCs because of the requirements that are placed on them. So in all of those areas, there'll be additional funding, additional technical support available to the NOCs in the next 4 years. Now, moving on very quickly, before I finish, the Refugee Olympic team, we are very pleased to say that the 37 athletes that are on the Refugee Olympic team met. Those are the 37. I think you've seen this slide before. They met for the first time in a team-building event in Bayeux, in Normandy. The very gracious hosts in Bayeux and Caen were able to work with the Refugee Olympic team and their entourage to bring them together in the first ever team building that they had. They were able to continue their training, but they were also able to engage in a lot of community activities, and hopefully you'll have seen some of those elements in the local press. So that was just the Refugee Olympic team. They have moved into the village, so you'll be able to see them around the games. So thank you, Mark. That's just a whistle-stop tour.
Very good. Okay, let's happy to take some questions. I presume your gentleman here put his hand up first. Is there a microphone? We'll come down, or yeah, over here, quickly. Yep. No, here. Yep. Come to Martin in a minute.
Thanks, Mark. My first question is for you. So I'm wondering whether you have watched the opening ceremony rehearsal, and what is your comment on this opening ceremony, as it is the first one held outside the stadium? Yes, and my second question goes to Kit. Because these games will witness the inaugural appearance of the breaking, but this sport is excluded from the next edition of the Olympic Games. So how do you see the future of these sports at the Olympic platform? Thank you so much.
Yeah, would you like me to give you a minute-by-minute rundown of the opening ceremony, just to tell you? No, I mean, obviously I have a good idea, but I don't have a full idea of what's in the opening ceremony. I can tell you, you can imagine it's going to be pretty amazing. The first time for the Olympic Games outside of the stadium, so it is going to be fabulous. We did have for the Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires, if you like, a little rehearsal back in the Youth Olympic Games back in 2018, I think it was, and that was pretty amazing. I think this will be this will blow your socks off, I think, it's a nice polite English saying, but it is amazing. Obviously, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to go into any of the content, but it will be pretty stunning and very, very televisual, as you can only imagine, in the centre of Paris. Kit?
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. And talking about blowing the socks off, I think breaking will do exactly the same thing here in Paris. Maybe the question came to mind when you saw the footage from the Olympic qualifier series events. It's spectacular. It's absolutely spectacular as a sport. And James mentioned Buenos Aires in terms of the opening ceremony. Buenos Aires was where the journey for breaking started when we had it in the Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires, sharing the field of play with 3-on-3 basketball. And obviously it's come through and been proposed by Paris as an additional sport for this edition of the Games. I don't think it's right to say that it's been excluded from Los Angeles. We shouldn't forget that it was proposed by Paris specifically for this edition of the Games because it fitted their vision of sports that had a really strong connection with young urban populations around the country. This is also why surfing, more of a coastal sport obviously, but skateboarding and sport climbing were included as Paris proposals for these Games as well. LA went a slightly different direction, again fitting their vision of their Games, and you understand the importance of team sport in American sport culture, and this is why Los Angeles went for a number of team sports in their proposal for Los Angeles. It's by no means a criticism of the sport or of the federation. The Federation World Dance Sport has done an incredible job on this Olympic journey towards Paris. They've developed the sport, they've promoted the sport. We've seen the big increase in the number of countries and athletes participating. We've seen the advances made in refereeing, judging, the way that the sport is proposed. I think in terms of the legacy, we already see the role in the NOC regional multi-sport games, which will continue, I'm sure. We've kept it in the program for Dakar in 2026 in the YOG. So I think the future remains bright for breaking, and I think the world will be exposed to it in ways that it's never had the opportunity to be before at these games, and I think that will set it up for a strong future as well. So I don't think we can call it excluded from LA. It's not included for LA, but that's because the LA program went a different direction. But let's see in the future for breaking. They'll do a great job here, and I think we should really celebrate that and see what the future leads to from there.
Thanks, Kit. Yeah, I think Marc Van Tuyac had his arm up first, and then we'll come across to Martin. Yeah.
Bonjour, ma question en français comme d'habitude. Question double. Est-ce que la commission exécutive a discuté de la question de l'attribution des Jeux 2030 aux Alpes françaises? Et qu'est-ce qui s'est dit? Et est-ce que la confirmation, est-ce que la candidature des Alpes françaises, vu que la signature de l'engagement gouvernemental n'a pas été faite, est-ce que cette candidature sera bien proposée mercredi à la session?
So it won't surprise, and I will respond in English. Sorry, Mark, but it won't surprise you to know that I don't think I'm going to bring you any breaking news today. Yes. That topic was touched on. Full engagement from the bid, very close engagement. As you'll know, French, great savoir-faire, great know-how, great venues, very, very strong. And but all I can say at this stage, a great proposal, but it will be on the agenda on Wednesday, and I can't preempt that. Obviously, the difficult political situation at the moment makes things a little bit more difficult, but that conversation is happening even now, and we still have till, I think it's Tuesday, Tuesday, I think, or I'm not sure. Yeah, anyway, we still have some working days left to go, so I would urge you to wait till then, when yes, there will be something presented. So, yeah, I'm going to go to Martin Ziegler down here, yeah, and then I'll come back across. No, gentleman here. Yeah, sorry.
Thanks, Mark. So I've been informed the CrowdStrike outage caused a sort of fairly significant impact on the IOC in 2024 systems. From my information is the Chief Technology Officer was alerted to this very, very early on and managed to secure a sort of early fix from CrowdStrike. But I guess it, with what happened in Pyeongchang before the opening ceremony in 2018, the issues of a malware attack are pretty significant as well. Can you just talk about that and what's in place to try and prevent a cyber attack and also a sort of system failure like the CrowdStrike one?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Well, what I would say first off is, as you pointed out, it wasn't a cyber attack. It was actually a systems failure, which probably for those people working in the system doesn't make too much difference, but it obviously makes a difference for us. Yes, there were some significant problems on the morning of that, but I think it was pretty well dealt with. I'd say, I'm not a technology expert, so I can't really speak too much about it, but I would say almost it was quite a good rehearsal. Cyber attacks are part of everyone's daily life nowadays, and phishing attempts everywhere, and for the Olympic Games it's a huge target, always used to be a media target and a campaign target, and now it's also phishing and a target by those kind of attacks. We, needless to say, have a huge amount of safeguards in place, both ourselves, our partners, and obviously Paris 2024. I obviously wouldn't go into what those were, even if I could explain what they were, which I can't, but I can tell you that we have been assured by our people and by our partners and by Paris 24 that we are very, very prepared. You can never be too prepared, but I think we had a pretty close call in Pyeongchang, so we have experience, we know what we're looking for, and I think as far as we can have every confidence that we know how to deal with it. Yeah, gentleman here in the glasses, just here. Yeah.
Pardon. Bonjour, Bruno Fraioli de sportbusiness.club, je vais parler en français. J'ai deux questions. La première, sur Paris 2024, il y a eu, sur Paris, il y a eu quelques attaques récemment, des attaques individuelles. Est-ce que vous en avez parlé ce matin? Est-ce que vous craignez quelque chose sur la sécurité? Vous m'avez dit que les préfets étaient présents ce matin. Et la deuxième question, c'est sur les comment vous appelez ça, les Olympiques séries, sur les sports urbains. Est-ce qu'il pourrait y avoir l'idée de créer, comme pour l'e-sport, des Jeux Olympiques des sports urbains, avec le break, avec le skate, etc. Merci.
So I'll take that first one and then I'll hand over to Kit. Thank you for that question. Yes, the Préfet was there this morning. It wasn't actually discussed, largely because, as far as my understanding is, the two attacks I think I've heard about, or two, were not related to the games, as far as we know. So it wasn't discussed. In terms of security, I think you need to ask the security forces. We have every confidence in what they're doing. They gave a very impressive presentation this morning. Again, with cyber attacks, I won't go into the details, but we have every confidence, and I think that confidence grew from a very impressive presentation this morning. But as for those two attacks, which, as I say, I don't think there's any evidence at all that they were games related, but they weren't touched on this morning. Kit.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll do the response in English as well, if that's okay. In regard to the Olympic qualifier series, look, not to have a separate Olympic Games as such. These were qualification events towards the Olympic Games, and it's part of so from the two events, the athletes gained points in ranking, which meant that the top-ranked athletes from the series qualified through to the Olympic Games itself. So it was a qualification towards the Olympic Games in Shanghai and Budapest, not a standalone Olympic Games as such. It was part of what we've done across all of the sports in the build-up to Paris, which is promote the Olympic qualification more than we ever have in the past. And in football, for example, when you're watching qualifying towards a World Cup or a Euros, it's very clear that it's qualifying towards the World Cup or the Euros. You know what the significance of that is. And often in the past, we haven't promoted as much how athletes qualify towards the games and the journey that the athletes go on in that qualification towards the games. This time we've developed very specific branding that we've used around those events, always in agreement with the international federations. We've done a huge amount of work promoting through our digital channels the qualification of the athletes towards the games throughout 2023 and 2024, and that's added real value back to the international federations. It's meant more coverage of the international federation events, more coverage of the athletes themselves. We've generated a huge amount of stories about the athletes. We've allowed the athletes and supported the athletes in promoting using Olympic marks out to their social media audiences. So we will continue to do this in agreement with the international federations, the wider promotion of Olympic qualification towards Los Angeles, and we'll also introduce that possibility on the winter side on the qualification towards Milano Cortina after these games, but always in agreement with the international federation. So not looking to create standalone Olympic Games as such for these sports outside the Olympic Games, but continue to both promote the qualifiers and look for opportunities to bring existing qualification events together around what we had in Shanghai and Budapest, because we really felt that bringing qualification events across those four sports together actually made the whole thing more valuable We could see the response from the athletes, the cities. It added value to them hosting these events because there were 4 sports instead of 1. The whole promotion around it was bigger than just doing any of the individual sports, so it really added value for the hosts, for the athletes, for the federations, and for us.
Hi, Tom at The Telegraph. I just wanted to check on reports in Israel yesterday about athletes receiving threats via email. Wondered whether you've had any messages of reassurance for the Israel Olympic Association and really what steps have been taken around security in the team.
Yes, we have been in contact with the Israeli National Olympic Committee. We're actually in contact with all 206 every day, and threats happen to athletes on a regular basis. We do understand, obviously, the Israeli athletes are receiving more. There are a number of safeguarding practices that we put in place straight away, together with the NOC, to make sure that those are dealt with. But it is a common occurrence, and in some delegations, obviously, it's more than others.
Lady on the right there. Yeah. Please.
Thank you, Mark. Wakakoyuki from the Yomiuri Shimbun. One each to Mark and Kit. Would you be so kind to give us the latest figure of AIN athletes' participation? Perhaps then it's Kit, and also what constitutes the violating the Olympic truth? Unfortunate situation still going on in Ukraine and even elsewhere. And is this what IOC concerns, and perhaps give further statements on a 4th account of Olympic truth violation? Kit, just one quick Olympic e-sport games and Saudi Arabia. What is the key interest or merits for the IOC to have a partnership with Saudi Arabian NOC, and how do you consist from on the creation of entire basically operation in terms of systems? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll maybe take the AIN numbers and the e-sport, and then pass back on the Olympic truce. Mark and Wakako, good to see you in person here in Paris. Firstly, on the AIN numbers, we currently, and I think the website is up to date, we have 32 AIN athletes. We have 15 with Russian passports and 17 with Belarusian passports, and that covers 10 different sports and disciplines, Wakako. And I think there is potential change, like any delegation, with reallocation of places and so on, but we probably expect that number to probably stay at that number now. And we should note that the AIN delegation has started to arrive in the village as well, which is great to see. In terms of the e-sport side, Wakako will have full presentations at the IOC session on Tuesday. I think, as we highlighted in regard to Saudi Arabia in the press release, and obviously it needs to go to the IOC session for approval on the creation of the Olympic e-sport games. As we mentioned in the press release, I think Saudi Arabia is seen as a very natural partner, and in some ways the best possible in the space of e-sport. They've done a huge amount developing sport generally in the country, including on the gender equality side, and certainly in e-sport we've seen from the World Cup in e-sport happening in Saudi Arabia at the moment, their links with publishers and their role in international e-sport. It's an incredible opportunity for us to work with a really experienced leading partner in the world of esports. So again, going to the session for more detail on Tuesday, both from the chair of the eSport Commission, David Lapatien, and then the question on the hosting as well. Some more details in just a few days. Wakako, thank you.
Thanks, Wakako. I'll take the question on the Olympic truce. Unfortunately, in our world at the moment, there are somewhere between, depending on who you listen to, 20 to 30 wars and conflicts going on. And they are continuing right around the world, in Africa and Asia, and in Europe, obviously, Middle East. So we're not naive enough to think that the Olympic truce is going to make everyone lay down their arms. We hope and we pray that we can create a culture of peace. That's what the Olympic Games can do. It can show that bringing people together to compete fiercely but still to live together peacefully in the village is something worth striving for. So we set an example. We hope to create a culture of peace. And, you know, the Olympic truce resolution is a symbolic act that we hope people will at least pay some attention to, but at least signpost the kind of world that we would like to see and the kind of world that we think the Olympic Games can somehow engender. Does that kind of answer your question? Yeah. Okay, let's go. Tariq, I saw at the back there, and then we'll come back down. Yes, sir. We won't forget you. Right at the back there. Sorry, that's my fault for, yeah. Guy in the light blue shirt, I think.
I'm all right. Fine. Hi, Mark. Just on Russia, it's been, obviously the AIN numbers aren't particularly high, but they've been kind of around the Olympics in the last few months. You've had the Tom Cruise documentary. You've had someone calling Thomas Bach and having a chat with him, pretending to be a man from the African Union. What do you anticipate you anticipating Russia will carry on with some of these activities we've seen in the build-up to the Games? And has there been any direct efforts to contact Russia? I mean, they hosted the Olympics in Sochi and they're known to the Olympic family. Has there been any kind of attempts to say, you know, would you mind not pretending to be an African Union official and calling Thomas back? And can we get through these Olympics?
To my knowledge, we haven't been in contact with anyone directly to discuss that issue. Clearly, there is a campaign of some sort going on. It's not the first time that the IOC, or the last time that the IOC, the Olympic Games, will be target to misinformation and so on. And you've seen it very clearly, and particularly with the film, it's getting more and more sophisticated, particularly with the Tom Cruise film. I'm afraid, again, it's one of those things that we have to live with in the world, and I wouldn't want to kind of speculate further about what we might face or what's going to happen, because I think that actually can end up being a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But it's part of the world, the divided world that we live in. I can't really add too much more than that, Tariq. Okay, let's go. The gentleman here has been waiting quite a while, and then we'll go to Kyoto behind. Yeah, so.
Bonjour, Alain Mercier, Frangeux. Dick Pound mentioned recently in an interview with Reuters an IOC session in November in Puerto Rico. So could you confirm that or give us some details?
I think he meant possibly Pan Am in Paraguay, yes, actually. So I think it was just, there is no, to my knowledge, there's no Puerto Rico session. I think he was thinking of the Pan Am Games and session in Paraguay. He got his P's mixed up, I'm afraid. It's not an IC session, no. Okay, let's go to Kyoto here, just in the front. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, it's about the Afghanistan athletes. There are 6 athletes will compete in the Paris Olympics. How is their preparation? Are they safely come to the Paris? How is the situation right now?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, as you say, there will be 6 Afghan athletes, 3 male and 3 female, that will be participating in the games here. The majority of those athletes are under Olympic scholarships and training outside of the country, so there's very little problems for them to arrive in Paris. There are a few of one of the athletes and a few of the officials that will be coming from Kabul, and we're monitoring that situation. I'm not even sure if they've done their DRM for the moment, the delegation registration meeting, but that's just a technicality. But there's no issues with them coming.
Okay, gentleman right here in the middle with his hand up in the black.
Thank you, Mark. Kosuke Nagaki from the Asahi. My question is to Kit. I could see how successful the Olympic qualifier series are. And as I was watching a television and I saw the top sponsors advertisement in the venue, which isn't the case in the Olympics. What was the reason? Was it because there's a less exposure for the IFs in the event? Thank you so much.
I think there are a lot of innovations we did around the Olympic qualifier series, and some of that came through in the video. In terms of the partner branding on the field of play, you're right, we don't do that in the Olympic Games. That's a very clear policy. But the OQS gave us an opportunity to test some different approaches in a number of areas, and that was Rouen. But there's no immediate plans to change that for the Olympic Games, and we won't have that here in Paris. But the OQS allows us to test some of those the different aspects outside the Olympic Games itself. Thanks.
Okay, yep, gentleman there with the microphone.
Yeah, hello. Halvor Ekeland from NRK in Norway. We've looked into the starting lists for this Olympics, and we found 105 athletes that has served a doping ban prior to this Olympics. First of all, what do you think of that number? Almost 1% of the athletes has served a doping ban. And second, in 2011, now President Thomas Bach said that he wanted to change the WADA rules after a CAS decision so that IOC could reject athletes who had served a ban earlier in their career to go to the Olympics. Is this something you still work on, and what's the status on that work?
I can give you an answer to the first, but maybe the second one, if you'd like to. The President will be here on, I think, Tuesday, so maybe you put the question, because it's, if you'll forgive me, it's like 14 years ago, so it's quite a long time. But, you know, I mean, obviously, he even at one time, like many people, wanted to see life bans, but that was not allowed by human rights in terms of law. It's actually not allowed. The sentence has to be commensurate with the crime. And I think on that point, going back to your first question, just as a general principle, I think that everyone has the right in most countries to some kind of rehabilitation, and that once you've served your sentence, then you can be eligible for rehabilitation. So I don't see that there's a problem. Obviously, we would like to see a doping-free games. We're working very, very hard with that. That's why we set up the ITA to do some independent testing, something like 80,000 tests between March and June on athletes. If you think that's a huge number of tests by the ITA. So, I mean, I think, yeah, I think everyone is entitled to be rehabilitated if they've served their time. Gentleman right at the back there with a beard, I can see, with your hand up. Yeah, gentleman there.
Yeah, thank you. One follow-up question for Mr. McLeod regarding Afghanistan. You mentioned that there will be a delegation coming from Kabul besides the athlete who will compete here. Do you have more information about these people? How big will be this delegation, and which position does the people have in Afghanistan? Thank you.
So there's one, excuse me, there's one athlete in athletics who trains in Kabul, and he'll be coming with his coach, and we have that has been approved by the IOC-recognized NOC of Afghanistan. So they have worked very diligently on the support personnel that will be accompanying the delegation that will be here in Paris.
Okay, yep, gentleman next door. I think.
Thanks, Mark. Matt Carmichael from Seven in Australia. Maybe for James and Kit or Mark. James, obviously there's a big focus on the low carbon and the clean games. Do athletes using and teams using private jets fit into the spirit of that? And is that something you'd discourage? The second question for Kit or Mark, I'm not sure who wants to answer. There are still being doubts raised about 23 Chinese athletes testing positive before Tokyo and the process to clear them. Will there be extra scrutiny on this team at these games, and are you confident that they'll be competing fairly?
Yeah, so the first one, I think it comes down to a personal choice. I mean, I think our position on having the most sustainable games possible, it comes down to a number of choices, whether they're taken by the organising committee, the national Olympic committees, the IFs, or indeed the athletes. And so, of course, we would encourage the lowest emission kind of transport possible for everyone, us included. From Lausanne, we all came in train. So, yes, of course, we would prefer that, but it is an individual choice at the end of the day.
Yes, I mean, on the case of the contamination case with the Chinese athletes, and obviously this is a question better posed to WADA than to us, but from memory, I believe, by the way, that they were also tested, extra tested. Each one of them, I think, had 8 tests ahead of the Tokyo Games as well. And I believe I read, but I would like to check with WADA, that they're also there are a group of athletes anyway who will be tested. The way that ITA works, as you know, is they pick out sports and individuals who they think should be tested more. There, I think I need to ask you to go and see WADA. But I will also remind you, as we already said many times, that there was a report by an independent prosecutor who found that WADA had acted properly. And that there seemed to be no case to answer. He had 3 other experts, independent experts on law, on science, and one other domain working with him. So as far as we're concerned, the interim report, and we've had indications from the investigator that the full report will be the same, has found that there is no case to answer. But ITA particularly will continue to do targeted testing, and that may or may not include those athletes. I would ask you not to take my word on numbers, because I'm not an expert on that, but I seem to remember reading. Please check with them on that one. Okay, I think we've kind of reached half past, so we've done an hour. Thank you very much. It's always dangerous taking one more question, because it's always a terrible one, but go ahead anyway.
Yeah, hi, Julian Linden from the Daily Telegraph in Oz. The Dutch NOC have selected an athlete who's been convicted of raping a minor. There's been a number of calls for his exclusion from the Games. Is the IOC looking into this, considering taking any action whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, I would refer you, in this case, it's the NOC which chooses an athlete. They have put out a statement. They've made it very clear that there's a lot of safeguarding going on, special extra safeguarding. We have our own safeguarding as well. I believe the offence was 10 years ago, which is not to excuse it in any way whatsoever, but there is some pretty heavy-duty safeguarding going on. I also believe that the athlete is not staying in the village. But I think, to get more detail, you should contact the Dutch NOC on that one. See, I said the last question is always fun. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we're back on Tuesday, and the President will be doing a turn. Thank you very much indeed. See you then.